If you got wedding plans on your agenda for 2026, you're excited for it, first off, congratulations. But second, maybe consider planning through Simply Eloped. They've planned over 14,000 personalized ceremonies in 37 beautiful U.S. destinations. You've got enough on your plate for next year, so let Simply Eloped coordinate every detail with care. All you got to do is bring the marriage license. Create your kind of wedding at simplyeloped.com. Today on CityCast Chicago, whether you're traveling this week or preparing to return to the city, to say it's going to be a busy time at the airport is an understatement because they saying it's going to be record busy. That's why we're bringing you our quick guide to Midway and O'Hare ahead of the holiday, just in case you like to get there hella early or forbid you find yourself in a delay. It's Tuesday, December 23rd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. We've got Axios Chicago's Justin Kaufman in the building. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Last time on the podcast, we were talking about airports. It was during the government shutdown. And then a little bit after that, we had those snowstorms. So there were hella delays, canceled flights. At the time you and I are speaking, how are things looking going into the holidays?
The United Airlines and O'Hare and Midway are having a banner year. So United, American, and all the airlines are all boasting record numbers for traffic, for passengers, for everything in terms of getting back to pre-COVID levels. The forecast is out for the winter, and United is already saying they're going to break all records. And so they're already saying that Thanksgiving was a record travel holiday. The summer was a record travel holiday. They expect the same from the winter. So, barring any huge snowstorms, which of course will happen, it will be the same amount of record-setting travel that has happened pretty much every season of 2025.
All right, we'll dive into those numbers a little bit more, how customers are feeling, but not taking into account like the destination availability. Obviously, O'Hare flies to way more places, but just from your personal experience, which of Chicago's airports do you prefer to fly out of? Again, just from an experience standpoint.
I mean, like every Chicagoan, you'd probably say Midway, only because it's smaller and it's easier to get in and out of there with the Orange Line, but not just the Orange Line driving there. It's a lot easier. I find myself, though, maybe it's because of, for Axios, when I travel, I'm traveling back to the home base in D.C., that it's always O'Hare. And so I find myself a lot coming out of Terminal 1, a lot of United Airlines. And again, that is either trying to get travel underneath the budget or my own budget that forces me to O'Hare, which is not as convenient as Midway. Now, again, there are a lot more opportunities, a lot more flights, a lot more sort of, day-to-day operation coming out of O'Hare. So, and obviously the variety of airlines that makes it that O'Hare is almost a default all the time.
I have different vibes going to both airports. Like for me, Midway is typically travel that I was able to control. Some small domestic vacation, maybe it's a family reunion or something. Maybe I'm going to a wedding. And so I'm not 1,000% relaxed, right? Whereas O'Hare, I'm typically going there when I either am going on an international trip, so I'm leaving Chicago for a lot longer. And so I'm a little more excited for that. Or I'm more kind of locked in because I'm flying for like work or to perform or something. And so let's start with Midway, since again, for most people listening, that may be their choice as well. Since they don't have that many options, when you go to Midway, where is your favorite place to eat if you got enough time baked in?
I don't know what it is, Jacoby, but I like to gamble with my time. Like my time is so important to me. I'm in there. I try to get there when they're boarding. Like I try to walk where I do not have an interruption of step.
Simone is gonna hate us for this, but that's me to the T. The only time I'm eating at Midway, maybe O'Hare, is if they canceled the flight.
Right. If usually it's delayed, I could tell you all the places, but yeah.
Exactly. So let's take that into account. If you got a little bit of a delay, where would you spend that time? But I'm with you 100%.
I actually think that the Midway amenities are better in the sense, maybe because there's less in the way that you're like, okay, I'm going to go this one.
I don't think that's how anybody defines amenities, Justin.
I guess, yeah.
Like they got the better amenities because there are so few of them.
O'Hare's trying to develop and renovate that airport. And a lot of it is trying to figure out what authentic Chicago experiences can be put into the terminal. So you're seeing more sort of Chicago known entities beyond. It used to be, oh, well, Harry Carey's restaurant, or Manny's, or all the things that were like almost tourist driven. But now they've found their way to add so many different types of like artisan or unique kind of small businesses at O'Hare. And I think they're doing the same for Midway. Midway's got the lounge now. That's the brand new thing for 2025, where they have gotten really they added a Midway lounge there. But Midway again is a place where maybe for people like me who might be challenged in how many options are put in front of me, maybe that's my ADHD in play, where I'm like, there's too many options, I'll stay where I'm at. But at Midway, I think the goal there is like, oh, this is a great option, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, White Sox Bar and Grill, Billy Goat Tavern, you can always get you a quick burger and a beer. But then Chicago Magazine last month put out their list, and one of their writers said that if I offered you sushi at Midway, your first thought may be to turn away. But Arami is there, and you might hear airport sushi and think gas station sushi. But Arami used to have a Westtown location, which closed last year, and they still got freshly made cucumber, avocado, California rolls to serve up at Midway. So if you're looking for a quick lunch and your first thought is avoid the sushi spot, maybe with Arami, you can pull up on there. I will say, to your point, I probably thrive a little bit more with more options. Maybe take me a little bit longer to figure it out. When you're talking about O'Hare, I mean, the Dearborn, it has an outpost in there in the International Terminal 5. You can grab you some shrimp and grits or a smash burger.
Right.
Publican has a spot.
But if I'm flying to Minneapolis, I'm not rolling to Terminal 5 to the international terminal to get a smash burger, right? I'm going to Bayless. I mean, that's like the constant for everybody in Chicago is just go to Bayless's place.
I was going to say there are some grab and go options, and Tortas Frontera is obviously still up there.
When I went to, I think it was last summer, I went to Boston. I flew out of Midway, and it was super, super early in the morning, and I went to M Burger, which was like, it's in the food court there. And I was blown away at how much money the egg sandwich was, like $20. And that's what I remember from it. And that's not just a knock on Midway. That's a knock on O'Hare. That's a knock on all of them, where you're like, wow, you guys have found a way to just gouge everybody for an egg sandwich at the airport.
I'm already knowing there are some people listening to this going, Kobe, you started with food I'm eating before I get there, and I'll just deal with it. But again, I will say, when I'm going to O'Hare in particular, if I'm about to go out the country, I'm already off budget. So let's do the damn thing. But also, if I'm going for work, like I ain't fronting that bill. So we pulling up, and I need me a Cubana. I need you to go and throw in a tortilla soup. I need a hibiscus spritz from Frontera. So make it work, right?
You got
pull
all
up
of
on
it.
Publican and get the chicken sandwich. Maybe grab some chicken wings. Do you ever find yourself in either airport, like searching for a last minute gift or something to bring people on the other end of your destination?
Man.
And if so, what do you do? What do you grab?
My kid is now in college, so it's different. But yeah, you would always be on a work trip and you're like, oh man, I got to get something from this town. What's it going to be? So you go into the Hudson News or whatever. And you're like, and you always end up like getting a Lego set or like a fake Lego set of an airplane. Yep. That's always a good one. Or the sweatshirt that just says New York. Mm-hmm. You're like, wow, that was worth the money.
My mom's go-to, she always gonna bring you some Garrett's. Me, if I could find a snow globe, I'll bring you a snow globe.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Easy to pack into the suitcase or put into a carry-on. It looks nice, just like wherever you choose to put it on your desk or, on your dresser, on a mantle or something. So nice little snow globe. If I can find a piece of stationery, Chicago pen, either a writing pen or like a pen, like a lapel pen. But a snow globe is probably my go-to.
Snow globe is the best. And it's great for Chicago too. If you're taking it to someone who's out of town, it's usually great because it's got the Sears Tower and stuff like that.
Minus food and water, what is the thing you would say you've wasted the most money on across O'Hare and Midway? Because I know my answer for damn sure.
It's always magazines and stuff like that. But I will say, which is so old school, to be like, I'm going to get an Entertainment Weekly, and then you open it up and you're like, what is this? I can't even read. I don't even know how to read this. How do I scroll? Not to sort of position myself like a booze hound, but I would say that that's the waste. When you get delayed and you roll up on one of those bars, and you're like, especially if you're for friends and family. You're like, oh yeah, I think I'll have Bloody Mary, whatever. That's where you just like, I'm just giving these guys $100 to do what? To feel groggy on a plane? Like, this was a terrible idea.
Mine are headphones.
Oh, the worst. Yes.
I have gotten to the airport and either forgotten my headphones or haven't had some for a while. And that is the moment which I feel most persuaded to buy a new pair of noise canceling headphones right before I'm about to get on the plane. And so I could confidently say have probably spent over the last decade maybe $1,000 or more on airport headphones.
Chargers has been a thing for me too. Yeah, you're right. I don't even want to. I don't want to do
battery
that.
packs.
Yes, I don't.
And battery packs. Yeah,
I don't even want to. Like, I love that you can estimate your expenses. I don't even want to do that. You're absolutely right. Headphones and any sort of tech, and it's always subpar or doesn't work or only works for a second. Like I kind of got out of that. But you're absolutely right. I've left stuff at the airport. That's the stuff that I have a great story at Midway where I left my keys in the actual security. Now, you imagine that, right? Imagine. So I flew out. I didn't realize I lost my keys until I was on the plane, right? So I went to New York. I was there for 3 days, came back, and I'm the guy who walked out. I'm like, hey, did you guys see keys here like 3 days ago? Like, and they're like, you could check the lost and found. And they open up like a big, drawer or whatever, and it's just a bin full of keys, right? And my uncle, a long time ago, he gave me a skeleton key for the CTA. So I can open up any lock on the CTA because he used to work for the CTA, right? That's like,
That seems like the worst thing to just give a family member.
It's the worst thing, especially I got it in I can't believe I still have it. I got it in my 20s and it did work. It unlocks it. You know what the best is when they lock the front part of the car, which is the one-seater. I can unlock that and go in there, like if I want my privacy, if I want to take a call in my office on the CTA, on the train. So anyway, it's mostly just novelty because I don't even think it'll work anymore. But the point is that was sticking up out of that bin, just the key. And I'm like, grabbed them, like, I found them. And they were like blown away that I found my keys out of this huge bin of thousands of sets. That was my Midway experience.
No, thank the mystical figure in the sky. I have never had to make use of either Midway or O'Hare's Lost and Found. But I'll be honest with you, if I did lose something, I don't even think I would have the presence of mind to go check because an airport lost and found sounds like one of the most chaotic places that I could possibly end up. You got any other cool amenities, hidden gems, other things at the airport people might not realize?
Yeah, here's my travel tip, and my wife hates it, right? So I go with I got a clearance bag from Kmart. It's this really colorful duffel bag, right? So I always travel like I'm getting on the Greyhound. Like I don't have a rolling case. I just have a thing. And I'm telling you, every time I fly now, and everyone listening to this knows this, that when you fly, they're like, we need to check that bag. We need to check that roller. We were out of space. Somehow we didn't do the math right, and there's just not enough space, or whatever that scam is. So they keep checking, but they never check my duffel because it's malleable. Like it could be shoved in there. Mm-hmm. So I always go with that when I'm going on a work trip. I just take this thing like I look like a soldier coming home. I roll in there, and they never check my bag, and I put it on there, and I walk right off that plane and right into the Uber or taxi or train or whatever, wherever I'm going. That's my travel. My wife hates it because she's embarrassed that I look like I'm in planes, trains, and automobiles. Like just got the one bag, But that's my go-to, and it works.
Hey, one tip I will say, and I've run into it a few times: keep an extra tote bag in the bag you plan on checking or your carry-on, because I've had it happen. The most recent time I had to travel was going to Atlanta for my sister's wedding. We pulled up. We decided to put all of our stuff in one suitcase. We figured we're only going to be there for a few days. It was way oversized. Southwest ended up getting me for a tote bag. I had to take some things out. Like they just raised the check bag fees. Southwest honestly is primarily one of my reasons for going to Midway as much as I do. But with them now charging for the bag, they starting to blow me, because they got me for the tote bag and for the extra check bag. So I would say take a tote bag with you in case that's the case, but also so you can bring back things if need be. So for consolidation, and then also for bringing things back. O'Hare has some of the best public art I have seen in an airport. And I've been in an airport in at least over half the states in this country. And the amount of art that you can find from alongside the moving walkways, across the terminals, the statues, the stained glass, the different fabrics you'll see, the light fixtures, the neon lights. I'm pretty sure they still got a dinosaur in that mug. Like, what we talking about? And so everyone's seen the picture of Michael Hayden's Sky's the Limit, but there are so many murals, model planes, luminaries whose biographies are on the wall across O'Hare. When I find myself, going from the furthest terminal to baggage claim, I don't know. I don't feel as annoyed with the walk, just because of how much cool ish there is to look at along the way. So like, take it in.
Yeah, and I would suggest, even as a transition to talking about the expansion, is that they're really being thoughtful about the aesthetic of what the airport's going to look like in 10 years. And that to me is probably the most positive thing that comes out of any sort of O'Hare expansion talk, is about their hiring, Jeannie Gang, and they're architects of note, and they're trying to make the spaces art themselves, which is a common thing to do when you're renovating in 2025. But it's good to see that Chicago, even though it's not done, are at least investing in what you're talking about, continuing public art and public architecture.
Yeah, in Terminal 5 back in 2023, they had included more than 20 Chicago artists in a $3.5 million public art commission, which they say is the single largest acquisition of Chicago artwork of the last 30 years. And so I have definitely seen the change over the last 10 years, that it's not just construction and kind of headache in this, but it has really changed the overall look of the airport. And given it's still one of the most traveled and a lot of people's entry point into the city, I do think that matters, and that whether they notice it or not, that it sings, sort of the song of Chicago, and Chicago artists when you walk through it. So yeah, definitely make some more time for the art. Let's kind of get into talking more about not only infrastructure, but how people feel when they travel to and through O'Hare and Midway. Both airports have previously received low marks in customer satisfaction when it comes to large airports in the country. Why exactly is that, especially since they are so different?
Yeah, well, because as you just mentioned, Chicago being a real hub for air travel throughout the country, throughout the world, a delay somewhere in Atlanta, or a delay in California, or a delay in even Dublin or London can have its impact on O'Hare. And I think that is one of the things that has always pinged O'Hare and Midway, has been just a higher level of delays and cancellations than other airports. Now, that being said, it's not like O'Hare is oh my gosh, so many more delays than the more popular New York and Atlanta and other. They're all pretty much on par. So I think the issue with O'Hare is that it's been trying to do this expansion project for 20 years. I mean, it was first introduced by Rahm Emanuel in 2018, and they were like, we are going to get this done by 2026, and there probably won't be a pandemic, so it's going to happen. Then there is a pandemic that stopped them and had forced them to reconsider, and then inflation and building tools they blame, and then they had to go and recalculate their budgets and recalculate exactly when this is going to be done. But they've been talking about it, expansion since Mayor Daley. This has been like every time they were like, okay, and when this bill, if you really think about it, O'Hare looks very 1990s. When you walk through the Terminal 2 where they got the awesome, the Christmas flags or the international flags and the Christmas decorations, that looks like Home Alone. I mean, it looks like 1990, 1991, and it really hasn't changed. The vibe of the terminals, especially the ones that haven't been redone, are very 90s, and the 90s are becoming far, far away, meaning that's 30 years ago.
I mean, and the airport is still under 100 years old. Versus Midway, which I think is about to celebrate year 99.
Yeah, right. So they're both older. So the issue is that I think there's a healthy amount of when it comes to not just expansion but renovation that happens just as part of the yearly budget stuff, where you might get a coat of paint or a new extensions or outlets, so you can plug your phone in or things like that, or couches that look like they would fit more people, but they don't.
Right.
They're really good at that.
Mm-hmm. Some cosmetic changes every now and then.
Yeah, right. They're doing cosmetic changes across the board. But I think the airport always seems to be stuck in the past, especially when you're talking about its counterparts. So when you have satisfaction polls and things like that, they're really kind of, pushing against some of the other great renovations. The one I'm thinking about is LaGuardia. LaGuardia, New York City, they went under the same amount of, I think is $8 billion. I think Chicago's is a little bit more.
8.5, something like that.
But the idea being that, and if you've flown through LaGuardia lately, since that happened right around the pandemic is when they finished it. As someone has traveled through both, I mean, the old LaGuardia and the new LaGuardia, you notice the change immediately.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you set off that flight, this is not the same airport. The color schemes are different. It's all new. It's different than what it used to be. And at O'Hare, I think it's been much more piecemeal, where it's we're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, but it never changes the feeling you get when you either go on or off the plane at O'Hare. And that may change here. That's what they're looking to do. That when you see some of the renderings that are being presented by the city of Chicago for the renovation of O'Hare Airport, which is due, I think, in 2034 now, 2032, something like that. It's an entirely different airport. And so that's, I think, will make a difference, because I believe, and this is just my anecdotal thought, is, people have, if they're delayed at an airport, they will have a bad experience with that airport, therefore moving forward. I've had experiences where, you're delayed out of a certain airport in a different town. You're like, I'll never like this airport. And I think that happens in Chicago.
And I was going to say, to Chicago's benefit, I think about the Condé Nast ranking, which we love to talk about. They also rank the most beautiful or the best reviewed airports, and Chicago may be number one as sort of best city to travel to, but none of its airports rank in the top 10. Right. And so we got the goods when you get here, but also, what that arrival feels like, or even, obviously for the rest of us, that departure feels like, is important for the reputation overall.
Yeah. And here's what's at stake, which I think is really, really intriguing and interesting for Chicago, is that like we talked about at the beginning, the O'Hare is having just an unbelievable record-setting travel year. Midway as well. I mean, pretty much all air travel. And a lot of that is because these airlines are offering more flights than they ever have, or at least since the pandemic happened. And so the numbers are going to be skewed that way. But O'Hare is constantly seeing more and more passengers. And a new study came out from DePaul that was like, listen, if this continues, which it looks like it will, just based on the amount of flights you're offering, you're going to have to either speed up this renovation or rethink the renovation, because you cannot be taking 9 years when I think the report said that they expected a 30% increase in traffic. So if there's a 30% increase in traffic and you've already got bad scores for delays and cancellations, I can only assume that that's going to be this even worse. And so that's what's at stake. And the city seems to understand that, because they're hell-bent on getting the global terminal. They're going to turn Terminal 2, which has been pretty dormant. They're turning it into a global terminal that will beef up their international travel, but also will be the crown jewel of the airport. That's the one that's going to be Jeannie Gang and designed. But the issue, Jacoby, is that when it's done, will have less gates than it had before. And so what DePaul's saying, and the city agrees, is that might not be the first thing you want to renovate. What you want to do is maybe move to Terminal 3, Terminal 4, whatever is the concourses, the extra gates, whatever it's going to be to add more gates and opportunities to not have this sort of bottleneck at the airport, you need to do fast. And the city changed it up. I think it was 2 weeks ago or so. They changed it up to say, yeah, we're going to change our game and we're going to hold on Jeannie Gang's thing. And instead, we're going to work on these concourses, these new concourses to add more gates, because that's the name of the game. And that's going to get the thing done. So I mean, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for the city that they're doing that. It's also, if anyone has paid attention to, the history of airport expansions, these things drag on, these things get more expensive, these things change. So there is, the idea they're audibling, and they just announced it a year ago, not great, if you've been paying attention to airports, but it is a good thing they are, if that makes sense.
O'Hare traffic is outpacing any other airport last year. The city is having to reconsider and make some adjustments around renovation plans. So that timeline, in terms of both the opening of new gates, being able to take in more flights, more passengers, but also the internal renovations. Do we have a sense of what those timelines look like right now?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's like when you see the timeline in person, you're like, that's a lot of years. But they'll have some of these things will be done in 2027. Some of the stuff, will be done in 2029. So the overall project, I think it was supposed to be 2032, but I think it's trending towards 2034, that the whole thing would be renovated just in time to start renovating the next chapter, I'm sure. That's how this works. But they've had delays. Rahm Emanuel started this in 2018. He's like, this is going to happen. He got United and American. Everyone's going to do this. Then the pandemic happened. And then they were like, you know what? This is way too expensive for the city to handle. And then it was Brandon Johnson, and give him credit. I think last year he got American and United to pony up more money than they had originally to essentially cover the costs and expedite this. Now, that we haven't even talked about United Airlines and American Airlines, both, sort of anchors of O'Hare Airport.
Given the way Southwest anchors Midway and United and American over at O'Hare, and given just how many people in our area United employs, what's the current relationship between some of these major airline operators and the city of Chicago?
Well, both Southwest and American are out of Dallas or Dallas area, right? So United loves to point that out. Last year they put up or earlier in the year they put up billboards around the airport that's like Chicago's only airline. Like they're really taking jabs at American, that kind of thing. United's an interesting case because they, for all intents and purposes, they've ponied up, they've added more flights, they are doubling down on Chicago being not only their sort of anchor space, but also their headquarters. There was some stories that came out at the beginning of the year or sometime last year that suggested that they might be looking elsewhere. Moving out of Chicago to go to Denver because they're building a huge campus outside the Denver airport. And in those plans, they had plans for big towers that would accommodate hundreds, if not thousands of employees, the exact same amount of employees that are in Chicago at Sears Tower. So it was like, head scratcher. Why would you be building that? But that's not coming online till later. So United denies it, saying, hey, we're here for the immediate, future, but let's have this conversation in 2030, Jacoby, and see how that plays. But right now, United is fully in, and I think one of the problems O'Hare has is that United and American are in a gates race. They both are wanting every single time that the city opens a new gate, they lay claim to it. You just saw United did that so just earlier this year, they just opened up a new satellite concourse of I think it was a couple of gates, right? And United just claimed them all. And American had been operating that there was some sort of, until the expansion was done, there would be a moratorium on giving new gates. So they sued United and they sued the city. It got thrown out of court. But now you're seeing Spirit Airlines is having its bankruptcy problems, and American Airlines came in and snagged those gates from them. I mean, it's a gates race. That's what we're in the middle of, is how many gates can I get? Because more gates means more flights means more money. And so these airlines are fighting each other for this expansion and this record travel, a piece of this record travel. And that's causing a little bit of pressure on the city of Chicago to get these gates up and operational. It's not helping that both United and American this year doubled down on Chicago and flights out of Chicago. I think it was United's going everywhere. They're the smallest towns you can think of. They're now flying into, and Americans hey, we're going to have a whole fleet of warm weather winter destinations in South America and Central America, and that's great. It's great for Chicagoans to have the kind of options, but those actual planes have to gate somewhere. And so they're putting a lot of pressure on the city to make sure that there's gates available, because if there aren't, there will be delays and cancellations and all things. That's why we're talking about this and why people are dissatisfied with Chicago airports.
All right. So given we've talked amenities, we've talked customer satisfaction, ongoing renovation, the pressure to grow each of these airlines' footprints, what would you give them in terms of an overall grade, in terms of their sort of health and efficiency right now?
Yeah, I mean, they will boast record travel, but as you mentioned earlier, I mean, you're talking about even during the government shutdown and when there's any sort of inclement weather, United and American have, and not just them, but all the flights coming out. O'Hare has a hard time, so does Midway, but they have a hard time staying on track and staying guarded. You know, I have a lot of people who will jump into this conversation and say, I can't stand this airline or that airline, or I can't stand this airport or that airport because of strictly about delays and cancellations. But you know, I do give high marks to the city right now for prioritizing the airport. It's an economic engine. It's billions and billions and billions of dollars.
I don't think the average Chicagoan has a good sense of how important the airports are to our economy, because for us, they're a thing when we need them.
I think both airports, I would give grades B-, C area. I think the aesthetics is important. I think when you fly into some of the small, and I understand they're newer in airports and some of the smaller, but when you fly into Reagan, or you fly into LaGuardia, or you fly into even Atlanta, some of the other places, they come across newer. And Chicago has to get on its horse and renovate these airports so they don't look like the beginning of Home Alone. It's as simple as that. And they are. I give them credit. They are. You can't do this overnight. But I do give credit to the Johnson administration and the city of Chicago. Be like, this is important for us to do, to remake the look and feel of O'Hare and to an extent Midway, because we know billions of dollars are at stake when it comes to, you know, the economic activity that these airports generate.
I want to give a huge thank you to our guest today from Axios Chicago, Justin Kaufman. Always a good time.
Always, man. Happy holidays, and I appreciate you having me on, and Happy New Year.
Before we get out of here, make sure you are subscribed to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. That is where you are going to learn more about the city council's recent vote to pass an alternative budget against the mayor's wishes and proposals. And now we wait to see if he's going to veto it. Some of the fines and fees that are included in this, the fact that it is passed without his proposed corporate head tax, sets us up for the possibility of Mayor Johnson becoming the first mayor in 30 plus years to veto a budget. And so learn more at chicago.citycast.fm. Of course, we can't get out of here without some good news. First and foremost, the Bears are back in the playoffs for the first time in 5 years, y'all, with a chance to win the division, host a couple playoff games, and make some noise. We got a pathway right now to first place in the NFC in a first week bye. It's not all in our control, but y'all, I'm still riding high off of that 50-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Williams. Cool as a fan. The other side of the pillow flipped over 2-3 times. And DJ Moore with the absolute legendary catch. Top 5 moment, and it's not 5 in recent Bears memory. Seeing him just roll over in absolute exhaustion at the end of that game, I'm not gonna forget it. It was a movie. Speaking of movies, I got about 4 on my calendar over the next week and a half at the end of the year, start of the new year. And if you like me and you like to spend your holiday season snuggled up with a good movie, then consider heading over to Chi-Town Drive-In, where they got a triple feature for you on Christmas Day, including Home Alone, Elf, and The Grinch with Jim Carrey. I have been over there for individual showings, for festivals, and it's a damn good time. I'll drop a link for you in the show notes. Huge thank you to our executive producer, Simone Alisea, our producer, Michelle Navarro, our Hey Chicago newsletter editor, Emmy Mack, our roving producer, Lizzie Goldsmith, our social media manager, Rick Homuth, the people who make our music, Sam Thousand, all the kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. And my last thank you, as it is every single episode, is for you. The people who vote us best podcast for the Chicago Readers Best 2025 and Best Email Newsletter, for all of the people who signed up to become CityCast Chicago neighbors this month, last, and this entire year, to any person who has ever shared this podcast or this newsletter with a friend, to any person who has ever written in or called in a suggestion, to every single person who calls this podcast one of their favorites. I want you to know this has always been and continues to be one of the best jobs I've ever gotten the privilege to do in my life. You will hear from us again bright and early on Monday and Tuesday with two of our favorite episodes we made this year. Friday, we're going to have our guide to January, but this is the last time that unless we get some breaking news, knock on wood, the last time I'm going to be recording behind this mic in 2025. And thank you for helping make this the best year yet, and one of the coolest years of my life. Bear the hell down. I'll see y'all very, very soon. Peace. Good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good gets better and your better gets best. CityCast Chicago on 3. 1, 2, 3.